Hello and welcome everyone to the daily news analysis of 3rd of December 2023। तो आज के इम्पोर्टेंट आर्टिकल हिंदू न्यूज़पेपर से जो है पहला जो है इंडिया नॉट एमंग 118 नेशंस प्लेज्ड टू पुश ग्रीन एनर्जी। देन मोदी मोइजो एग्री टू सेट अप कोर ग्रुप टू फर्दर डिपेंड टाइज। देन सुप्रीम कोर्ट डायरेक्ट्स बिहार गवर्नमेंट टू रिमूव एनक्रोचमेंट नियर द गंगा। इन 2022 66% of malaria cases in Southeast Asia were from India. After COVID break, Center approves fourth phase rollout of GIAN scheme. US, UK, Australia defense chief tout deep space radar and AIM joint deal. Then 6 exoplanets found orbiting a nearby bright star, owing Indian tourists with visa free entry. Why is a COP28 summit focusing on health? Then is another prohibition survey needed in Bihar? India will be largest cotton producer। 16 नंबर का पेज है। तो फर्स्ट आर्टिकल जो है इंडिया नॉट अमंग 118 nations that pledged to push green energy। As many as 118 countries signed a pledge to triple installed renewable energy capacity by 2030 during the ongoing COP28 climate summit here on Saturday, and India is among those countries whose name is not on the list. The other conspicuous absence is that of China, the country that has the world's largest installed renewable energy capacity. Through the plan to substantially increase renewable energy capacity and energy efficiency and farm it up into a declaration at COP28 was first floated by European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen this April. It was first mentioned as a concrete proposal in the New Delhi G20 declaration in September. The global renewable and energy efficiency pledge as of today has committed to tripling worldwide installed renewable energy generation capacity to at least 11,000 gigawatts and to double the global average annual rate of energy efficiency improvement to more than 4% by 2030. A person in the know said that some of the language in the text was problematic. Officials in the Indian delegation did not respond to requests for comment by the Hindu on the reasons for India not signing the pledge. India, as part of its nationally determined contribution, NDC has already committed to installing 500 gigawatt of electricity from non-fossil fuel sources by 2030. As of March 2023, Power Minister R.K. Singh said India already has close to 170 gigawatt of installed capacity. Tripling this actually overshoots the 500 gigawatt commitment, but there is as yet global disagreement on whether large dams India considers them as renewable energy sources are indeed renewable sources. Notably, the pledge that countries have committed to has little legal sanctity and yet to be included in the main negotiating text that are being worked upon before a final COP28 agreement is ironed out by December 12. The US and Brazil have the second and third largest installed renewable energy capacity, followed by India. Both the US and Brazil have signed the pledge. The G20 text in September does not mention energy efficiency goals and says that signatory countries will pursue and encourage efforts to triple renewable capacity. Some experts expressed disappointment that India had not signed. It is disheartening that India has not signed onto the global pledge to triple renewable and double energy efficiency by 2030. Reaching net zero commitments made by countries means that fossil fuels, including coal, need to be phased down and out, said Madhura Joshi, Senior Associate India's Energy Transition led E3G. Then Modi Moijo agreed to set up core group to further deepen ties. India and the Maldives on Friday agreed to set up a core group to further deepen their partnership as Prime Minister Narendra Modi had a productive meeting with newly elected Maldivian President Mohammad Moizu on the sidelines of COP28. We discussed ways to enhance the India Maldives friendship across diverse sectors. We look forward to working together to deepen cooperation for the benefits of our people. Mr. Modi tweeted after the meeting his fast with Mr. Moizu. According to Prime Minister's office, the two leaders discussed ways to further bolster economic relations, development cooperation, and people-to-people ties. The next is Supreme Court directs Bihar government to remove encroachment near Ganga. The Supreme Court has ordered The Supreme Court has ordered the Bihar government to clear unauthorized construction from the floodplain of Ganga, especially in and around Patna. The order came on an affidavit filed by Bihar identifying 213 unauthorized construction near the river. The state said it was taking measures to remove the encroachments. Eco-fragile floodplains. A bench of Justice Anuradha Bose and Augustine George Massis directed the state government to file an affidavit informing it about the removal of identified illegal structures. The state shall also ensure no further construction take place adjacent to the Ganga, particularly in and around the city of Patna. The bench directed. The top court was hearing a plea filed by Patna resident Ashok Kumar Sinha against the June 30, 2020 order of National Grand Tribunal dismissing his pleas against illegal construction and permanent encroachment on the eco-fragile floodplain. The plea contended that the tribunal passed the order without examining the detailed particulars of the violators encroaching upon the Ganga floodplain in Patna submitted by the appellant. The risk to life, the illegal and unauthorized construction and permanent encroachment on the floodplain of Ganga are creating tremendous amount of waste, noise and generating vast quantum of sewage. The plea filed through advocate Akash Basistha said, they are aggravating the risk to life and property of the dwellers occupying the surroundings since every year the areas stated in the preceding paras go down under the flood waters. The illegal construction were obstructing the natural course of river. It said environmental impacts. The police said they were causing deleterious environmental impacts on the reef's biodiversity and the destroying the habitat and thereby the very survival of dolphins, a scheduled one species under the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. On the stretch, the police stated that the tribunal failed to note the fact that a clean Ganga river was vital and essential to meet the drinking and domestic water needs of 5.5 lakh population of the city. As groundwater in the district was contam- contaminated with arsenic. A massive 520 acres of ecologically sensitive Ganga floodplain stretching from Newjar Ghat to Nupur Ghat in Patna have been usurped. The stretch is prone to recurrent floods every year. A multi-story building belonging to the Thakat Sri Harmandir Sahib has further come up since 2017 and parts thereof are still under construction, the police said. The next, in 2022, 66% of malaria cases in the Southeast Asia were from India. In 2022, India accounted for 66% of malaria cases in the WHO Southeast Asia region, not noted the World Malaria Report 2023 published by the World Health Organization WHO. It adds that almost 46% of all cases in the region were due to Plasmodium Vivax, a protozoan parasite and human pathogen which is the most frequent and widely distributed cause of recurring malaria. More people infected released earlier this week. The report highlights that despite its strides in expanding access to insecticides treatment, treated nets and medicines to help prevent malaria in young children and pregnant women. More people were getting sick with malaria. The WHO Southeast Asia region accounted for about 2% of malaria cases globally, while malaria cases declined by 76% from 23 million in 2000 to about 5 million in 2022. Malaria cases incidence Malaria case incidence in this region decreased by 83% from about 18 cases per thousand population at the risk in 2000 to about 3 cases per 1000 population at risk in 2022, said the report. Giving the global pictures and trends in malaria, the report stated that in 2022 there were an estimated 249 million cases globally, exceeding the pre-pandemic level of 233 million in 2019 by 16 million cases. In addition to the disruption caused by COVID-19, the global malaria response has faced a growing number of threats such as drug and insecticides resistance, humanitarian crisis, resource constraints, climate change impacts, and delays in program implementation, particularly in countries with a high burden of the disease, said the report, which also delves into the links between climate change and malaria. The changing climate poses a substantial risk to progress against malaria, particularly in vulnerable regions, said Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, who WHO Director General. In his note, adding that a substantial pivot in the fight against malaria is needed with increased resources, resourcing strengthened political commitment, data-driven strategies, and innovative tools. Innovations should focus on development of more efficient, effective, and affordable products, he said. Then, after COVID break, Center approves fourth phase rollout of GIAN scheme. 8 years after its inception, past its brief continuation during the COVID period, the Education Ministry is gearing up to restart the fourth phase of global initiatives of academic networks GIAN. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's pet project to rope in eminent scholars from across the world to teach at Indian universities. The Union government has spent at least 126 crore rupees in payment to support foreign faculties travel and honorarium since the inception of GIAN. Each foreign faculty member is paid a sum of 8,000 rupees, 7 lakh, sorry, 8,000 dollars, 7 lakh rupees for a week of teaching, and $12,000, 12 lakh for rupees for conducting a 2 weeks course. As many as 1,073 academics have taught the 1 week course, while 553 experts have held 2 weeks courses. Among these are experts like David Salman and an Indologist from Hebrew University in Jerusalem, Bhanu Pratap Jana, an American cell biologist, and Sabir Sarkar, an Oxford University-based physicist who taught at Jawaharlal Nehru University. Tabiz Khair, a noted author and a professor at Aarhus University in Denmark, taught from post-colonial world and literature at the IIT Bhubaneswar. Sources in the ministry said the National Institute of Educational Planning and Administration (NIEPA), after evaluating the scheme, recommended its continuation. According to the data accessed by The Hindu, of 2,101 approved courses, 193 were withdrawn, 172 were delivered till October 23. Since the beginning of the scheme in 2015, 1612 foreign faculty members have visited the country to deliver courses from 59 countries. After 2 years of COVID lull, Phase 4 applications for GIAN began only in July 2030. Ministry sources said as many as 690 to 39% of the 1772 courses were delivered on Indian Institute of Technology (IIT) campus, while the second largest number of lectures, 436 to 24.6%, took place at the National Institute of Technology (NITs). Compared with those in the Central Institute, fewer courses took place in state universities to 41 10.8% of all courses. The rest was conducted at the Indian Institutes of for Information Technology, IIIT's Indian Institute of Science at IISc, Indian Institute of Science Education and Research, ISER, Management in Institutes, Central Universities, and All India Council of Technical Education, Engineering Colleges. IITs are very well funded, and a number of foreign faculty members regularly come there. We need to take more efforts for the renowned faculty to visit state university and smaller colleges which have little exposure to high quality lectures. If a GIAN course coordinator from one of the partnering university told the Hindu, up to 41.4%, 668 of academics who visited India belonged to US. The rest consisted of experts from UK, 143, Germany 93, Canada 89, France 56, Italy 58, Nordic countries 47, China, Japan and Taiwan 63, Asian countries 42, and other countries 259. Up to 72,000 Indian students directly benefited, while in earlier phases many foreign countries faculties members were reluctant to publicly upload videos of their lectures and research for online consumption. The ministry has now insisted in phase 4 approval process that those experts who will allow video recording and optional webcasting of their courses will be given preferences. The course coordinator said the ministry is also planning to make the repository of GIAN lectures available to universities across India through an online consortium. The lecturers can be accessed with a specific login ID and a password for students and teachers across multiple universities under the new phase 4 proposal. The coordinator said the next US, UK, and Australia defense ties. Australia defensive tout deep space radar and AI in joint deal. The defense chief of the US, Australia, and Britain met in California on Friday, touting high-tech cooperation on deep space radar, AI, and quantum computing system aimed at bolstering their forces in the face of global threats, including from China. The three men huddled in Silicon Valley, the heart of US tech sector, to build on the so-called AUKUS, Australia, UK, and US partnership launched in September 2021. Today just underscores that AUKUS is one in a generation opportunity that will promote peace and security throughout the Indo-Pacific. U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin told the reporters. On Friday, the focus was on the cutting edge, including the development of what they called a deep space advanced radar capability program, which will see radar detection sites in all three countries by the end of the decade, with the capacity to peer 35,000 kilometers into the space. Australian Defence Minister Richard Marles said that in addition to deep space radar, there would be coordination on quantum technology to aid with navigations and weapon detections, as well as resilient artificial intelligence, which in turn will give rise to a resilient precision targeting. Then six exoplanets found orbiting a nearby bright star. Six exoplanets orbiting around a nearby bright star HD 11067 in the Coma Berenice Berenice constellation has been discovered. The planet have a radius between that of Earth and Neptune, a study published in Nature has calculated the orbit details along with estimates of their masses and densities, which offer clues about the foreign formation of the system and composition of the planet's atmosphere. Planets with radius between that of the Earth and Neptune, referred to as sub-Neptunes, are found in close in orbits around more than half of all Sun-like stars, but details of their composition, formation, and evolution are not well understood. HD 110067 is a bright star in the Coma Berenices constellation around 100 light-year away, which is visible from Earth's northern hemisphere. Observation of HD 11067 made by NASA's Transiting Exoplanet Survey Satellite TESS in 2020 and 2022 revealed several dips in the star's brightness, and with additional observation from the CH characterizing exoplanets satellite CHEOPS, the signals were interpreted as six planets passing in front of stars. Reporter Raphael Leque and colleagues, by studying the three nearmost planets, the author calculated the orbit of all six planets, ranging from around 9 days for the innermost planet to around 54 days for the outermost planet. The author have calculated the masses of the planets and estimates the densities, which are relatively low. The author suggests that the low densities could be explained by large hydrogen-rich atmosphere. All six planets are in resonant orbits in which the planets exert regular forces on each other as they orbit. These features suggest that the system remains practically unchanged since its birth at least 4 billion years ago. HD 11067 is the brightest star found to host more than 4 transiting exoplanets to date. The author note and add that more planets may exist within or beyond the temperate zone, although such observations have not been made so far. They conclude that the HD 11067 system offers a chance to learn more about the sub-Neptune and how system in this configuration might form. The next article जो है going Indian tourist with visa free entry. Malaysia has become the latest country to extend the advantage of visa-free travel to Indian citizens. The facility will be extended to Indian travelers till December 31, 2024, and will be valid for 30 days from the date of entry. The initiative is aimed at ensuring hassle-free travel for Indians who have emerged as one of the major tourist groups visiting Malaysia in the recent past. According to industry sources, at present there are around 26 countries that extend visa-free entry to Indian citizens for various reasons. What does the Malaysian decision imply? Tourism has emerged as one of the key focus areas for Malaysia's post-COVID recovery strategy, renowned for its scenic location like the Langkawi beaches. Malaysia's tourism sector was hit hard during the COVID period when the travel restriction and visa problems nearly decimated its tourism industry. But under the Anwar Ibrahim government, Malaysia is taking serious steps to recover its leadership in tourism sector. According to Malaysia Tourism Promotion Board, 10.7 million visitors choose to visit the country in 2022, bringing in more than $28 billion to the economy. The recovery can measured by the fact that during peak COVID period of 2021, only 0.13 million tourists visited Malaysia. The visa-free facility to Indian and Chinese travelers is therefore aimed at making the country a more attractive destination for recreation seekers from the two of the major Asian economies. Which are the other countries extending visa-free travel to Indians? Among major regional tourism destinations, Sri Lanka and Thailand are the nearby economies that have also extended visa-free travel facility to Indians. Sri Lanka which was hit by economic crisis in 2022, has a reason to make itself an attractive destination. Its visa-free policy for Indians is driven by both economic and political reasons. What are the category of visa exemption? India has visa exemption agreement with many countries in the world that cater to multiple category of visas. According to Ministry of External Affairs, at least 34 countries across the world have agreements with India that exempt visas for holders of Indian diplomatic passports. These include Germany, France, Iran, Japan, Norway, Turkey, and others. That apart, there are at least 99 countries with which India has operational agreement for diplomatic service and officials passport holders. According to the MEA, on updated list, there are 16 countries that offer visa-free travel facility for a certain period of time to ordinary Indians passport holders. This includes Nepal, Bhutan, Fiji, etc. The list, however, keeps changing as countries keep on experimenting with their visa policy. According to the latest estimate available in the Passport Index website, there are at least 26 countries at present that provide visa-free facility to ordinary Indian passport holders. Is the visa-free facility permanent? Countries extend visa-free facility to Indian tourists for a certain amount of time or for a period depending on their advantage, but there are factors on the ground that may also determine whether a particular tourist is suitable for such a facility. Malaysia, for example, has mentioned that the scheme will be subjected to security clearance. Similarly, visa-free facility does not mean relaxation of security protocol in the port of entry. For example, in Dominica and El Salvador that provide visa-free entry to Indians, strict checks are carried out in airport to prevent illegal or undocumented immigrations to Americas from India. There are reports from places like Guatemala that extend visa-free travel to Indians but withdraw in fear of undocumented immigrations. What are the other advantages and countries are providing to increase Indian tourist flow? Tourism destinations like Singapore, Egypt, and Albania provide e-visa facility to attract Indian travelers. E-visa is helpful for countries that do not have formal diplomatic missions in India. Today, tourism plays a vital role in a nation's economy. Many countries, as a result, offer various attractions for tourists from across the world to visit the country. One such attraction is removing the usual hassles of travel logistics such as visas. Therefore, providing visa-free entry to tourists creates a large impetus for tourism, which is perhaps one of the prime reasons why many countries have extended such facilities. Honorary Consul General of Albania, Diksu Kukreja, told the Hindu. Then why is this COP summit focusing on health? On December 3, for the first time in 28 years of climate change negotiations, the Climate Health Nexus will take center stage at the United Nations Conference of Parties Summit in the UAE on abated greenhouse gas emissions are triggering extreme weather events, air pollution, food insecurity, water scarcity, and pollution displacement, which in turn are altering the trajectory of vector-borne disease and Africa, Asia, South and Asia, Central American and small and island states which have contributed the least to climate change are bearing the brunt. Addressing these issues on December 2, 123 government 123 governments endorsed the COP23 declaration on climate and health. Why is there a health day at the summit? The groundbreaking health day at COP28 as COP28 President Sultan Ahmad Al Jaber put it is expected to pose two questions: how public health can become resilient to climate change and who will finance this transformation. India also highlighted the intricate link between climate change and public health during the health talks held under its G20 presidency this year in September. Dr. Al Jaber spoke in the backdrop of New York Climate Week. The connection between health and climate change is evident, yet it has not been a specific focus of a COP process until now. That this must change. Health is not a stranger to climate change talks. The United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change (UNFCCC) recognizes the health impacts of climate change. Health events have been held at COP for several years, including at the WHO Health Pavilion, but this is the first time there has been an official health day, says Jess Begley, policy led at the Global Climate and Health Alliance (GCHA). This is also the first time there will be a health interministerial meetings with Minister of Health, Environment, Finance, and other types of ministries joining in. While the declaration text is final, the health ministers will be able to add supplementary comments during the meetings. However, a health day in itself does not necessarily mean that health will be reflected in the negotiation, said Dr. Jenny Miller, Executive Director of GCHA. One of the things we need to see to determine whether this is truly a health COP is whether the focus on the health carries on the negotiations, said. What can we expect from the health talks? The COP28 UI Declaration on Climate and Health includes dialogue on mitigation emissions, health sector adaptation to climate change, mainstreaming of health into climate policies, and the sticky questions of climate financing for the health. Thus, the declaration, however, does not mention fossil fuel. It recognizes the need for climate mitigation, strengthening research on the linkages between environmental and climatic factors and antimicrobial resistance, and intensifying efforts for the nearly for early detection of zoonotic spillover to prevent future pandemics. It does not mention pollution-related harms or identify fossil fuels, coal, oil, and gas as a driver of health threats, or emphasize the need to add fossil fuel dependence. Fossil fuels are seen as the largest contributor to global climate change. British epidemiologist Sir Andy Haynes at the briefing said that a commitment to phasing out fossil fuels and transitioning the renewable energy would be an important health outcome if we move from fossil fuels to renewable energy. For instance, we reduce the preventable death of air pollution as well as reduce the risk of dangerous climate change. What are the concerns? Most G20 countries, including wealthy industrialized nations responsible for the majority of historic greenhouse gas emissions, have failed to center the health in their climate action. As per 2023 analysis by GCHA, low and middle income countries like Burundi and Congo were found to be better at engaging with health concerns in their nationally determined contributions. This is likely to reflect the undeniable links between health and environment and disease and climate change, which cannot be ignored in these countries whose population are enduring the most severe health impacts of climate change. Mrs. Begley explained changing weather patterns and rising temperature and are altering the life cycle of vector-borne diseases such as dengue and malaria, which disproportionately impact proper marginalized groups. The spread of dengue has increased in India over the last 2 decades, research shows. Then there is a matter of finance. Health crisis triggered by warming climate are expected to chart a financial toll of around $2 to $4 billion annually by 2030. Another estimate shows that 40% of climate-related poverty would be due to direct health impacts as people's income, productivity, and health costs would soar. Dr. Al Jaber had called on private financial institutions to plug this need and contribute generously to the Green Climate Fund. On December 2, the Green Climate Fund and the Asian Development Bank, the Global Fund, and the Rockefeller Foundation pledged a new $1 billion finance pledge for climate and health. This $1 billion sum is a tremendous addition to current levels of climate and health finance, said Mrs. Begley. It is also key that funding for climate and health be truly new and additional are not pulled from other key areas that are vital to protecting health, such as water and sanitation, for food security, and humanitarian actions. Developing countries had earlier asserted the need for grant-based international public finance that does not add to their debt burden. However, the declaration endorsed climate health funding for domestic budgets, multimedia development banks, multilateral climate funds, along with philanthropies and private sector actors. Where does India stand? In India, particular air pollution is said to be the greatest threat to human health, and health related deaths may kill an additional 10 lakh people annually by 2090 according to data. India scored 2 by 15 points in the 2023 GCHA scorecard that sorry that assessed India's inclusion of clean air in its national climate commitments. India's NDCs thus far have focused on reducing emissions intensity, transitioning to non-fossil fuel sources, and creating additional carbon sinks. Experts, including AMREF Health Africa CEO Dr. Gitinji Gitahi emphasized that health has to be woven across teams at the COP negotiations, which includes discussions on clean water, clean air, and sustainable cities. What countries as a successful health COP stakes are really high. We need to see progress on one of the root causes of climate change. We will be looking at fossil fuel phase out as one of the metrics of whether this has been a health COP or not, said Dr. Miller. Other metrics include a just transition to renewable energy, commitment to reducing emissions, and grant-based climate financing. The next is another prohibition survey needed in Bihar. On November 26th, at the function to mark Nasamukti Divas or De-Addiction Days, Chief Minister Nitish Kumar announced that there would be a fresh house-to-house survey to assess the impacts of liquor prohibition in Bihar. The survey is likely to begin from the mid-December when did the state ban liquor. To curb alcoholism, the Bihar government amended the Bihar Excise Act 1915 and promulgated in Bihar Prohibition and Excise Amendment Act 2016 from April 5, 2016, introducing total prohibition in the state on the October 2, 2016. It is promised to enforce, implement, and promote computer prohibition of liquor and intoxicant in the territory of the state of Bihar and for the matters connected therewith and or incidental thereto. However, since then the act has been amended several times. It has the ban served its purposes. Month after the Bihar Prohibition and Excise Amendment Act 2016 was enforced, as many as 19 people died on August 2016 at the Khajurabani locality of Gopalganj district after consuming illicit liquor. Over 250 people have died since 2016 after consuming illegal liquor, but the opposition Bharatiya Janata Party (BJP) says the toll is higher and could be over 1,000. Despite complete prohibition, illegal liquor bottles are known to have been funneled into the states through states such as the Uttar Pradesh, Jharkhand, West Bengal, and sometimes even after crossing the porous border of the neighboring country of Nepal. Innovative ways are used, including ambulances, hearses, gas cylinders under the vegetable sacks in pickup vans and trucks, and in pantry car coaches of trains. In courts, there is a huge pile of prohibition-related cases across the state. In December 2021, the Chief Justice of Supreme Court Justice N.V. Ramanna expressed concerns over the prohibition law, saying it was enforced with lack of foresight, which has led to the clogging of courts in the state. How many households will the survey cover? A form in Hindi and English will be circulated seeking feedback from the people on whether they support the liquor ban, their family's economic conditions, social strata, and whether their quality of life has improved because of prohibition. An official said. Krishna Paswan, Joint Commissioner of the State Prohibition, Excise and Restriction Department, said talks are being held to finalize the modalities of the survey. The survey will cover a minimum of 2,500 households in all 38 districts and will be completed in 12 weeks. The data of the survey will be collected on a day-to-day basis digitally. The department has already invited tenders from the institution willing to conduct the survey, said the officials. How does the government assess the ban? The chief minister has dismissed criticism, especially from the BJP, that prohibition has been a total failure in the state, given the number of huge tragedies and cases of illegal liquor being seized and arrest of people allegedly involved in the illegal liquor trade, while asserting that the liquor ban would stay in the state as long as he is in power. Mr. Kumar said, "We have to plug the loopholes and make the implementation of prohibition more effective and strict." Have there been surveys on the ban earlier? There have been two surveys on the impact of the liquor ban in the state, and in August 2018 and February 2023, initiated by the state government. The first survey, conducted by Patna-based Asian Development Research Institute (ADRI), said there has been a positive impact after prohibition on the people of the state. 1.64 crore have quit drinking and spent the money saved to buy milk, vegetables, and clothes. The second survey was conducted by the Chanakya Law University in association with the Bihar Rural Livelihood Project Jibika, which had covered 33,000 odd villages in 534 blocks across the all 38 districts of the state, covering over 10 lakh people. The survey had revealed that 1.82 crore have quit drinking, but about 44.39% admitted that they were still consuming liquor. 99% women and 92% women of the state are in favor of a prohibition. The survey showed figures which have been often quoted by Mr. Kumar. Prohibition has also helped in economic uplifting of families, especially from poor classes, among whom alcoholism has reduced drastically. Mr. Kumar has often said, "What is the reason of the to conduct a fresh survey?" According to the official, despite the fact that the prohibition law has been amended thrice since April 26, illegal trade in both Indian-made foreign liquor (IMFL) and country-made brew has been thriving. The government has been conducting regular raids on using drones, breath analyzer, and setting up more checkposts, with the personnel holding handheld scanners at the interstate borders. Over 5.5 lakh cases related to violation of provision under the amended act has been registered, and over 7.5 lakh people have been arrested, but the conviction rate in the such cases has been very low, 21.98 till February. This year, over 1.6 crore liters of illegal IMFL and 97 liters of country-made liquors have been seized in the state since April 26. As many as 74 special courts exercises have been made functional, and awareness programs like street plays a poster are regularly put up, but there has been no apparent let-up in the illegal supply of liquor. Hundreds of policemen and excise officials have been suspended for violating prohibition laws. The chief minister said that based on the findings of the fresh survey, new measures will be introduced. Then आज का लास्ट जो आर्टिकल है, इंडिया विल बी लार्जेस्ट कॉटन प्रोड्यूसर. India will strive to become the largest cotton producer globally. Minister for Textiles, Commerce and Industry Piyush Goyal said in Mumbai on Saturday, inaugurating an annual global meeting of a United Nations recognized body of cotton producing and consuming nations at the 81st plenary session of the International Cotton Advisory Committee (ICAC). The minister said India has the largest area under cotton cultivation and is the second largest producer. We need to become the world's largest producer. Mr. Goyal stressed, adding that the Textile Advisory Group on Cotton will work towards improving productivity similar to the level in the countries like Australia. Man-made fabric. India will provide leadership in cotton textile and technical textiles. It has two advisory groups for cotton and man-made fabric fiber. These groups have a representation from the entire textile value chain and take policy decision with inputs from sector representatives. India has also launched a PM Mitra, a central government scheme to set up mega textile parks and promote the entire value chain. Mr. Goel said the National Technical Textiles Missions promotes research and development in technical textiles. These are man-made fabric meant for a specific function and are not generally used for appeal or aesthetic appeal. The Indian textile industry is working towards achieving $250 billion by the 230 2030, including $100 billion exports, he said. In a fortnight, the Textile Ministry and the Department of Consumer Affairs would open state-of-art testing laboratories nationwide to ensure high-quality textile products and are manufactured and exported from India, Mr. Goyal said. He introduced Kasturi Cotton Bharat brand, which he claimed could be traceable using blockchain technologies and that it would be carbon positive. The first set of textile products made using Kasturi cotton were also introduced at the event. Indian cotton farmers will benefit from drone-based pesticides spraying launched by the Prime Minister Modi recently, the minister said, adding that the use of innovations and the Internet of Things will benefit Indian cotton farmers. The 4-day event on cotton value chain, local innovation for global prosperity is expected to be attended by the delegates from 35 countries. So friends, this is all for today and we will meet from tomorrow onwards with new news articles from the Hindu newspaper. So till then, thank you. Thanks a lot.